Thank you, Gordon, so much. Our second plenary speaker this morning is our athletic director, Shane Lyons. He was named just last year, about a year ago. You might remember he made it here. I think he was on the job 2 days or something like that whenever he came to visit us. He's the WVU's 12th Director of Intercollegiate Athletics and Associate Vice President, and was named just a year ago. Here at WVU, Shane oversees 18 varsity sports, a budget of about $86 million, 220 employees, and more than 500 student athletes. The Parkersburg, West Virginia native came to WVU after spending 3 years as Deputy Director of Athletics and the Chief Operating Officer at the University of Alabama, where he worked closely on day-to-day strategic direction and leadership. Prior to being in Alabama in 2011, Shane had spent 10 years as the Associate Commissioner of the ACC, where he focused on conference-wide compliance and academic initiatives, providing assistance to the conference's presidents, chancellors, and athletic directors on matters dealing with NCAA regulatory matters. Before that, he was an associate athletic director for compliance at the Big 12 member Texas Tech, and also worked for the NCAA for almost 10 years. He earned both his bachelor's and his master's degrees from WVU in sports management. And so to that, folks, he's done a fabulous job in just a short year. Please help me in welcoming Shane Lyons, our athletic director. Shane.
Good morning. I'm not sure, Cindy, we've worked together for a year, and I love you, but you put me after Gordon. So, that is a hard act to follow for sure. But, last year I was here, fortunately, been on the job. It was longer than 2 days. I think it was 2 weeks. So, very, very green. Now I've had a year under my belt. I call it my freshman year, so now I can't make excuses on everybody else. It's my shop now. But one thing I talked about last year to the group was how great it was to be back in West Virginia. And I told the story about my wife, Emily, who's here with me, about, got the job. We were talking about the move. And I said, in your wildest dreams, did you ever think that we would be going to Morgantown, West Virginia? I'd become the 12th athletic director at West Virginia University. And she looked at me and said, Shane, you're not in my wildest dreams. So this year I brought her, and last year she didn't make it. But I'm still trying to figure out all these emails that Dr. Gee gets. He gets the positive emails. I'm not sure I get any of the positive emails. So, I need to start getting some of the positive emails in there. I found out there's 1.8 million people in the state of West Virginia. Found out there's 1.8 million athletic directors in the state of West Virginia, too. So I get a lot of advice one way or another. But I think Dr. Gee kind of laid the foundation of one of the reasons I came back to West Virginia and tried to lead this athletic department is to believe that there is hope. We can continue building this program, being in a Power 5 conference like the Big 12 conference, finishing our 4th year and growing within that league, both as a Power 5 member institution as well, just nationally overall. So I'm just going to touch on a couple things, just the highlights so far, what we've done this year. We've had 7 teams that have been ranked in the nation's top 25 polls at some point during the 2015-16 academic year. We've had football, women's soccer, men's basketball, women's basketball, rifle, wrestling, gymnastics have all been ranked so far this year. We've been in and out of those polls. Our growth, our potential is to have those sports, each and every one of them, continue to grow and become not only a Big 12 champion, but also being a national champion. Academically, we've had 4 academic All-Americans to date, 6 All-American performers, 30 All-Conference performers, 62 academic All-Conference performers, And 262 of our athletes last year were named to the Big 12 Commissioner's Honor Roll. More than 450 student athletes made the department's academic honor roll last year. We've had strong APR, strong graduation rate scores, both higher than the national average. This past fall, out of 500 and roughly 15 student athletes, our team GPA of our 18 sports combined was above a 3.0. So we continue to stress that they are student athletes. That's what we're about as an athletic department, and continue to grow. Our highest team GPA was our women's cross country team with a 3.6 team cumulative GPA. And that's something to be proud of, the number of hours that they spend in the classroom, but also the number of hours that they spend on the track or cross-country course. So to have that balance in their life is something that's very important to us in the athletic department, and as we continue to grow. You know, sport-wise, we've come off a good year. Football was in their 34th bowl appearance, came out as Cactus Bowl champions. How many did stay up all the way till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning to see that outcome? It was a great game. It was the 15th bowl win in the school history. The most important thing about that, going again, academics. 17 of our student athletes had their degrees in hand when we played that game on January 2nd, I think it was. And again, that's what we're striving for, is to making sure that we're developing our young student athletes to become future leaders, both on the field as well as academically. Our women's soccer program, a record 19 wins this season, 16th straight NCAA appearance, reached the round of the Elite Eight in women's soccer, had the national ranking as high as number 4 in the nation at one point. Coach Nikki Izzo Brown won her 4th straight Big 12 Coach of the Year recognition. Kadisha Buchanan, a finalist for the Herman Trophy in the soccer. That is equivalent to the Heisman Trophy in football. So she's done a wonderful job for us as a student athlete on the field as well. They were Big 12 regular seasons or tournament champions in all 4 years that we've been in the Big 12 conference. So our women's soccer program has really represented us at the highest level, both nationally as well as within the Big 12 conference. Men's basketball. What can we say about Coach Huggins and what he's done with this team? Currently, we're ranked 14th in the country, 2nd in the Big 12 right now. Need a couple more wins to solidify that spot. Wonderful game. Those who made it. I did hear yesterday that we beat number 1 Kansas when they were ranked number 1 in the country. Unfortunately, an ice storm came about. People took 3-4 hours just in Morgantown. This isn't from all over the state to get to the game. Somebody told me last night they left the house at Cheat Lake. Took them 3.5 hours to get to the game, walk in with 10 minutes to go in the game. I mean, 10 minutes truly, not 10 minutes on the clock. We all know that takes about 45 minutes. But 10 minutes, they were in the game, saw us win, and then drove back home. So it was a nightmare at that time. It turned out to be a great night for a basketball team to win that game that night. The other thing that just came out this week, Javon Carter and Daxter Miles were both named to the 2016 academic first team in the Big 12 Conference. Both of those student athletes have at least a 3.2 GPA or higher and named to that team, along with Nate Adrian and Devin Williams that was on the second team with a 3.0 or higher. So Coach Huggins is performing both on the court as well as in the classroom. The funny thing about Coach Huggins the other day, he told me, came off the floor against Iowa State, obviously the Saturday before we got beat by number 3 Oklahoma, and came back with a great win against Iowa State on Monday night, on Big Monday. He goes, you have 2 things that you can do. And I looked at him and said, what do you mean by that? And he goes, you can either give me a raise for coaching these guys the way I'm coaching them, or 2, fire me for recruiting those student athletes. So, big decisions. But always has a sense of humor. You never know what's going to come from him. Women's basketball, again, been ranked in the top 25, performing very well this year. Coach Carey has 11 newcomers that is on his team. Coach Carey gained his 300th win at WVU and 600th career win overall. So for 11 new players out of 15 on his squad, he's performing at a very high level and the all-time winningest coach in WVU basketball history. Our rifle team, they gave me my first national championship as an athletic director last year, 17th overall. They're about ready to defend their NCAA championship in the next couple weeks at the University of Akron in Ohio. So hopefully we can bring home another national championship in rifle. Last but not least, just to talk about our future, where we're heading facility-wise, and as President Gee talked about, just the changing of the landscape in the Evansdale campus, and we want to be part of that. Currently, right now, Mountaineer Field, Pushkar Stadium is going under major renovations on the concourses. Phase one of that will have the east side and the north side, which is the hospital side, completed by the start of this football season. Wider concourses, more concession stands, more restrooms, better traffic flow, more gates for fans to get in. So that'll be exciting, as well as the turf on the field, the crown, which has been there for a number of years, have been removed, and we'll have a new playing surface at Mountaineer Field. The Coliseum renovations, we're about ready to start construction right after the basketball season. It'll start end of March, go all the way through the 1st of November, is doing renovations there again on the concourses, adding restrooms, adding concession stands. I'm told right now from the architects that we have, I think, 62 toilets, if you want to call them, in there. We're going to 144. So we're doubling. If you've been to the Coliseum lately, everybody stands in line to use the restroom. So it's something that's been long overdue. That building is 46 years old, so it's time for some renovations in that building. And the way next week I will have a press conference rolling out some renderings that the architects are finalizing as we speak, and have some renderings for you all to see and what that new project will look like. That's phase one. Phase two will come back with the inner bowl, adding some ADA seating, and then also adding some premium seating in phase two of that. So that's an exciting thing that we're working on. And last but not least is the weight room for our Olympic sport participants. Outside of the current shell building, we will be adding a new weight room, which will be about 10,000 square feet. Currently, our Olympic sport student athletes, which total over 350 student athletes, work out in a facility that's been very dated. That's about 2,500 square feet. So you're trying to get large teams that's through there. That's very, very difficult. This will give them the opportunity to now have a state-of-the-art training room and be able to train at the highest level. So we're excited about that opportunity. Last but not least is the Big 12 Conference, what it's mean to West Virginia University. It's great to be in the Power 5 Conference. Our conference revenue has enabled us to compete at the highest level. It's given us that opportunity to help build some of our facilities, help give those additional benefits to our student athletes that we need to be able to provide through NCAA legislation. It's a great fit for both of us academically and athletically, what the Big 12 Conference brings together, and becoming more competitive in all sports as we finish up our fourth year. As I've said, that we are a viable member of that Big 12 Conference. They don't like seeing the blue and gold come in. They definitely don't come to Morgantown. It's a tough place to play both football, men's basketball, and all of our sports. So we'll continue to become stronger and stronger. President Gee and I have worked. You've heard a lot in the media about what the Big 12 Conference, what the future of it looks like. Are we going to add members, not add members? There's a lot of information that we're gathering at this point. We're fortunate to have President Gee as on the presidential committee of the Big 12 to look at expansion and his leadership in that role. Again, I don't think there's any answers that we have today, but just looking at what our options are as a conference and with the potential that it has to go to 12 or 14 members, whatever that may be in the future, a television network, a potential football championship game. So all those things are on the table as we look forward to grow and become a better athletic department as a whole. So with that, that's my remarks, and I would open it up for a couple quick questions.
What's the most recent information on the cost of attendance policy?
Cost of attendance is a great question. Last year, NCAA legislation adopted a proposal that allowed member institutions to provide to our student athletes. It used to be just a full grant and aid, which was room, board, tuition, and fees. Last year it was adopted to allow them to go up to the full cost of attendance at the institution that they attended. For us, using the out-of-state number, that was roughly around $3,500 for a student athlete combined for both semesters. So that allowed us to provide that extra money to put in the student athletes' pockets to be able to, have spending money, whatever it may be for necessities or travel home, whatever that may be. So, it's worked. We've been 1 year into it. Obviously, each school's number is different, so it's not even across the board. Some schools within the conference is as high as over $5,000. So from a recruiting standpoint, we've gone through one recruiting cycle. I have not found so far that that's been used in the recruiting process. Do I think it's a factor in the recruiting process? Yes. But I think with the number of legal issues that's facing the NCAA, that they won't come with across-the-board number. They'll each use the institution's numbers as part of that. We continue to look at it for our student body in general. This is nothing that the athletic department, it's our university administration from our financial aid office using the formula to come up with our number, what it costs in Morgantown for a student to live and what those things above a full grant and aid would be. Other questions? Fred?
One of the things that I always hear people, when you first announce we're going to Big 12, cost explosion in travel. Is that really a problem, or have you, and do all our sports teams have to travel like the football and basketball, or is that more related to those two sports?
No, all teams travel. That was the question. But, ironically, obviously we're the furthest east of the Big 12 conference. But if you look historically, you look at all the other conferences, how the landscapes of those conferences have changed over the years as well. You have, Arizona traveling to Washington. That's further, that's, several thousand miles. You have, now Kentucky traveling to Texas A&M. So all the geographical footprints of the conferences changed. Yes, to answer your question, it's changed from, our standpoint, from travel, what it cost us to travel. It is hard on, especially our Olympic sport teams, to, they have to travel to Pittsburgh, catch a commercial flight. Fortunately for our basketball teams and football, we do charter to have them back and forth because of the weeknight games to make sure they're back that night in order to be in class that next day. So to answer your question, yes, there's additional cost associated with that. With that being said, obviously, joining the Big 12 conference financially has changed. The old Big East, what we were receiving from the conference was roughly $9 to $10 million, as a whole. Now from the Big 12 conference, we receive about $26 million in conference revenue. So I'll take that trade. We'll travel a little bit more and have a little bit more of expenses in travel. But, I think every conference, everybody's looking at travel issues and the changes in that. One last question.
Shane, could you comment on the new baseball stadium and how that's reflecting on our baseball program?
Well, last year, that's a great question. Last year was the first year in the baseball stadium. If you have not been up to the ballpark, what a great facility. Obviously, we got behind a couple weeks last year because of the weather getting into the stadium. We moved in, however, the parking lots weren't done. It was kind of messy. You still had mud and different things. By the end of the season, we had the parking lots, completely done. Our attendance, we had never really been ranked in attendance. I think last year we were in the top 30 and 34th, I think to be exact, in attendance in baseball. So our attendance has gone through the roof. From a recruiting standpoint, so far, using it for 1 year, Coach Mazey and what he talks about of being able to now recruit to a top-notch facility, especially playing in one of the best baseball conferences in the country, if not the best baseball conference in the country, has really, really helped him. So if you haven't had a chance to go up to the Monongalia Park and look at it, it's something very special, and it's going to help springboard our baseball program into a top baseball program in the country, and especially within the Big 12 conference. So, one more. Anybody?
Just
Okay, that's it.
What's the status of the Pitt, West Virginia football game coming back?
Well, I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is that was one of the first things that was on my agenda last year to get done and get them scheduled. The good news, I got them on the schedule for 4 years. The bad news is the first we complained was 2022. So they're back on the schedule in football. I'm not sure. You know, I'll probably have a lot of gray hair, if not any hair left by the time 2022 comes around. But we did get it worked out. They have a new athletic director as well. Scott Barnes, and Scott and I had talked. We got him back on the schedule. Unfortunately, in football scheduling, you're working 8 to 10 years out. You know, we got it worked out, but as I said, the good news was it's on the schedule. The bad news is it's 2022 through 2025 home and home series. So that's something exciting. We're looking forward to that. We have to be patient. So as we go through that process. So go ahead, Joe.
One more. Do you anticipate that in the future that the conferences will get together? And I know there's been some conversation about that. I believe it's part of it, heard about it. That the conferences will get together, evaluate, and try to maybe move and switch teams in and out of the conferences to alleviate some of the expenses that they're now experiencing as far as travel.
You know, it's something I'm not, you know, I think for the Olympic sports that maybe there's some models out there talking about, you know, whether it's best for our swimming program, our wrestling program, whatever it may be. Is there more of a geographical instead of a conference realignment, you know, for those specific sports? You know, I think it's in the discussions. However, I think people and institutions want to be part of the conference, want to be, vying for that conference championship. So that's something that, you know, we continue to look at. Obviously, the biggest thing of being in the conference is being there for the revenue sharing, your media rights, and, you know, through your contract. So, you know, that's the tough part about it is looking at the revenue standpoint and how that would change. Obviously, most of that comes from football and men's basketball revenue, but what do we do with the Olympic sports? And, you know, I'll leave it to a higher pay scale and better and smarter people than me to ultimately make those decisions. But that's something that we have to look at, because for our Olympic sports, not only with West Virginia, but across the board, intercollegiate athletics as a whole, you know, a lot of teams are traveling at a far, far distance. You know, what we once knew as bus trips are now plane trips, and it becomes very difficult. And, you know, we have to balance missed class time, a lot of variety of things to look at that. So it's something that's being discussed. However that pans out, I'm not sure exactly what that will look like. So thank you all very much, and let's go Mountaineers.